Good evening and welcome to the Day After podcast and our sub-show Pixar Sunday, where we are tackling every film in the Pixar library, where today is episode 5, where we are tackling 2003's Finding Nemo, directed by a man named Andrew Stanton.
So I feel like this is always, when you see Pixar lists, this is always kind of the weird one. John and I were 12 and 11 respectively when this came out. And so I have a lot of memories of this. And number one of the highest praises I can give the movie. This movie's fucking gorgeous.
What did you mean by weird?
It's because, like, Toy Story 2, everybody recognizes those as awesome, amazing classics. Bug's Life, either you love it or you hate it. It's very whatever. And then you have this, which is so far from what Pixar has done. It's kind of like A Bug's Life. It has kind of the same idea where you're a human magicked into this new crazy world.
So, are you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What I actually, maybe this will figure out, because right now I disagree with you pretty heavily, but I think as we talk
I'm allowed
about...
to call something weird, dude.
No, not weird, but like I think we'll get more into what that means. I do have to respect the juggernaut of a fucking movie this is.
Yeah.
You said before we started the movie, this is what ruined every school.
Oh my god,
aquarium trip.
every aquarium visit. You cannot go, and because of this movie, even today in 2020, you cannot walk into an aquarium without some kid shouting Nemo and Dory.
And that's maybe one of the highest praise, because it's not like you're looking at a Woody toy and you go, oh, Woody, because it's obviously Woody.
Right.
You see a real life creature
and give it this character's name.
And that is astonishing to me. This movie did fucking gangbusters. It is, it is still the best-selling DVD of all time.
Yes.
Which is shocking because number 2 is also a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
Jesus. In 2008, the American Film Institute voted this the 10th best animated film of all time.
Wow. These figures are taken from Wikipedia, by the way, so please do your research if you're actually going to throw these statistics out. Just
one, like, cynical thing. This was developed, the script was written during the post-production of A Bug's Life, so kind of 1998 or 7.
And you can tell just how much time went into this movie.
Yes, and even the people that were helping them animate it, once they had the screenplay done, the helpers in the movie, they're like, it's very unusual for you to start an animated film and the screenplay is finished.
Yeah.
Which is very weird. I would never be able to do that in my work.
And I wonder if this is an effect of this. So normally, especially with Disney movies, you can easily mentally divide them into a 3-act structure. You don't need to do that to enjoy the movie. With this, to me, this is it's more like a video game where you have a bunch of scenes strung together into a general hero's journey. And I'm not going to compare this to a hero's journey, but like you have the shark scene, the turtle scene, you have the pelican and seagull scene.
It's a very disjoint movie, would you say?
Not disjointed, because the scenes all flow together really well. And it's amazing how each one of these scenes can feel so distinct and so contained, and yet still flow together to make a journey.
Yeah, I think distinct has a negative connotation with it, which I would not give to this movie. The one thing I had to get over, and I actually got over it really quick, is because I was a little intimidated by this movie because it's very, very popular among Pixar fans without being the circle jerk answer.
Yeah. Toy Story is the circle jerk, if we're going to be honest.
Yeah, 3 and 2, but with good reason.
Yeah.
Fuck, this movie's... What I like the most, and you know how you're like, don't compare this bad movie to a better one?
Yeah.
I had the opposite effect. I was watching Finding Nemo, and I'm like, good job avoiding what I call the fucking Shark Tale situation, which Shark
Tale came out like way after this,
I don't know. I can't do my research, but in Shark Tale, it's just fish who act like humans.
Mm-hmm.
But in this movie, for the most part, the fish are swimming and doing fish things. Their locomotion is fish-like. They don't do anything aside from an AA meeting. That's, even when it's an AA meeting, they're still fish. They're still talking.
Another thing I like about this movie is it deals... We've gotten to the point now where I even hesitate to say it deals with X hot button issue. It does deal with both physical and mental ailments. Characters who have physical and mental ailments. And this movie has characters who have those without like constantly throwing them at the screen to the point where they're bruised saying, look at how inclusive we are.
That is it, maybe it's because of with the climate I'm in now, and I hate to not anti SJW, but it's very nice to have inclusivity without expecting a badge for it.
Yes, yeah. It's like, oh, I'm inclusive. Isn't that so great? All of these nice older ladies, all these moms are gonna talk around the coffee table, saying of how fucking feminist Ray is. Sorry, I went on a tangent there.
You cool down. I'll take the reins. Yes, he has a fin, but that is 2 points. One, yes, he has a derp fin, but that is not 100% the catalyst for Marlin's parenting issues. And Dory has very severe short-term memory loss.
Right.
But the adults watching here, because the kids don't know what memory loss is, but the adults watching are like, that's really fucked up, so I'm really happy you're a funny character.
I really like how, yes, Dory is the one with the ailment. She has the short-term memory loss. She's in a far better mental place than Marlin is.
I feel like she, due to her disability, I'll call it from here on out.
Yeah.
She has learned a lot of life coping skills to help Marlin.
Yes.
And it's not like a disorder superpower, like how being autistic makes you a super genius.
And that scene she has with Marlin at the end when Marlin thinks his son is dead. And so he's about to swim away and Dory's like, no, please don't go. Like, you're the only thing in my fucking life that makes sense.
Oh, God.
And it's not romantic at all. And not just because she's played by Ellen DeGeneres.
I have completely forgotten there's a male and female lead.
Right.
Never once even hinted at.
And it's just, their camaraderie and their repertoire is so fucking good.
Go ahead.
So, and since we're talking about Dory, there was a comment I made at the beginning of the movie that, if you don't mind, I'd like to touch on before we get to the rest of your notes. This is a movie that is completely stolen by its side characters. Not that its mains are bad.
But
the side characters are so fucking good. When you leave the theater, that's what you remember. That's what kids make jokes about.
Now, going into this movie, I knew very little. And I knew that Marlin was played by Albert Brooks, who has a storied history as an actor. But he plays a rather straight character for which other characters can bounce off. And I want people to know, not like I feel like I'm preaching to somebody who mostly already knows this role, but here we go. A straight main character is not bad.
No.
Boring is not the same as straight. You need somebody for Crush and Bruce's friends and the whale to bounce off of.
Yeah. Not that the whale is a huge character, but yeah, like, and we're not, I'm not going to talk about Finding Dory. We'll save Finding Dory for Finding Dory, but like a movie completely surrounded like by Crush, or a movie where like the sharks are your main character, it would Bruce and his friends would completely wash everybody out. Marlin is there to kind of be everybody's center, and I worry that roles like that aren't really appreciated in film today.
I never thought this was going to be my shining praise of Finding Nemo, because it has several points that I want to tackle.
Right.
Albert Brooks really plays exactly what he needed to be. And I don't have the quote, but somebody on Wikipedia, I think the director said, Albert Brooks saved this movie. And not saved like it wouldn't get made, but I feel like he added a lot to the movie with his restrainedness that would allow these other bouncy characters. Can you imagine if everybody was shouting for space?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, I mean, because Marlin is the way he is, you allow Dory and Crush and even the Nemo's friends in the tank, people Marlin only meets once. You really allow those personalities to shine through because the main plot you're following makes so much sense. Like, it's written in shorthand. You don't need to spend a lot of mental space on what is his character, what is their personality, what have they been through, etc., etc. Marlin's pretty easy to understand.
This movie's humor
and his motivation.
He does. Oh God, let's talk about that, because
okay.
I don't want every episode to have a small shit on Up moment.
No.
But no. Here it goes. Let's. I'm not going to talk about Up again.
Okay.
The intro scene, which is where
Coral dies.
Coral is killed off screen.
Yes.
And this barracuda
who is like the most fucking intimidating thing I've
Holy
ever
shit!
seen.
It's just a still figure
Jesus
for a long
Christ.
time. I until now, the most scary scene in this movie was something in a Bug's Life with the fucking fake bird on fire.
In the series of movies,
in the series, yeah, but that Barracuda scene with very little. It's a very simple scene where it's just standing there, and you know that something's fucked up. This is one of my favorite background pieces. Is that that was going to be a flashback in the middle of the movie to show how Coral died, but then the director Andrew Stanton said, "Wait, we don't need any info on how she died.
Right.
She got eaten by a barracuda. Who gives a shit?"
Yeah.
That makes it so much better at the front of the movie.
Yes.
Because it gives this sort of weight to why is Marlon so weird? Because without that, you're just like, oh, he's a bad parent.
Yeah, and parents fail. They do fail, and the important point is that when you tell a story about parents and their kids, and the story is about the parents, they need to fail in interesting and relatable ways. But with Marlon, you constantly understand where he's coming from, and you understand why he is the way he is, which I really respect this movie for. The other thing I respect this movie for, again, very small side point, and then we'll get to your notes.
Go for it.
The amount that these people almost die, like, gives you a major respect for the ocean.
There are... Okay, here's my...
the whale, the net, there's constantly things sneaking up from behind.
I am shocked at the... I'm going to call it restraint for lack of a better word. Visually, in the case of that when there's a large shot of the ocean and you can see Nemo or Marlin and Dory swim from bottom left to bottom right, they're okay having large amounts of space.
Yes.
And time where when the whale swims away, very lengthy scene where a whale comes from the fucking background. It's scary as shit.
And it makes you really appreciate the scope of this world that they live in a way that Bug's Life just really, really missed the ball on.
Yeah, the scope, it's hard to do, and I think that part of that had to deal with the technology maybe, but that's for another day, and we put A Bug's Life away.
Right.
Anyway, go ahead.
No, I'm done now, so let's get to your points.
If we're talking about the fucking ocean, I'm really impressed with the restraint of the fish jokes, and not the fact that they didn't make them.
Yes.
The fact that they made them and were sure you were going to get them.
Yes. And they're very subtle, and they're not like, oh, I made a joke, please appreciate me.
It's so fucking subtle. The I can't even say it.
Anemone
jokes. The school, like, oh, go off to find a good school. Ha!
Ha.
There's no... Ha!
And it gets even more subtle, the fact that Marlin takes a breath when he's in the water before he jumps his head above water. I didn't even
notice. I was focused on the narrative. It's so funny. He's shouting in the air for Dory, or for Nemo, for Nemo.
Yeah.
And he ducks under the water and
takes a breath and then goes back up on the surface.
It's a blink and you miss it gag, and I need to watch Shark Tale because I'm sure I'm gonna hate it.
Yeah, yeah, you are.
The Shark Tale is gonna be this is what not to be. This is one of the very few Pixar movies that feels like it could take place in our world.
Yeah, and I think that was really, really intentional. And we mentioned before, like Pixar is movies about adults for kids. And this one, this has such a great relationship between the dad and the kid, and it's built up very, very well. You understand the kid's frustration and the dad's desperation to hang on to some kind of control.
This movie was fueled by the director's worries that he's too protective a dad.
And this would have been so easy to make an environmental movie.
I was shocked.
And they didn't.
When you made this joke about overfishing at the end, and I'm like, oh, don't be sad. Wait, there's been no environmentalism in here.
Yeah.
Maybe for better or worse. I think better, I guess.
I think better just because it's such an easy, especially in today's world, which again, the 2003 was a different world than today, but it's such an easy line to cast.
Mm-hmm. God,
did you see what I did there?
Oh my god, it's gone! You did it so fucking... I'm mad at you right now, Jesus.
Topical.
Just a throwaway. The animation on Bruce is really good.
The animation all around. I totally respect the fact that they did this in the ocean, and you can so tell how much time went in to make this feel like a walking through an aquarium and not just like in the cool little shark fish tube, but like actually walking around that tank and seeing the fish swim around you. That's every single scene is shot that way.
Just a quick aside. Andrew Stanton was fascinated by the when he was a little kid, he would go to the dentist, which there you go. And he was fascinated by the fish there.
Yeah.
And he thought that would be they're so cool there. And he saw a picture. He talked about this in an interview with National Geographic. He saw a picture of 2 clownfish peeking out of their home, and he's like, "Oh, I wonder what they're doing." And he learned later that clownfish are very much a stay in one place kind of fish.
Yeah, yep.
Which would be a great topic for them.
Yeah.
He also took his kid, which is where he got the obsessive parent idea.
Mm-hmm.
He was in one of those tubes in an aquarium. And the computer graphics could fucking run a train on this entire scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful because in the water you don't have to animate crap like that.
Yeah, and you can take advantage, as John said earlier, you can take advantage of space and just really appreciate the scope of this fucking world that you're in. I don't want this to be a Versailles length podcast.
No, it's not. It's okay. Well, I'm running out of stuff pretty quick. Welcome to the Mainstays. Not a lot to talk about here. John Ratzenberg plays a school of fish.
Mimics Marlin.
That was really funny. Okay.
Does charades.
I do appreciate that as a straight character, John Ratzenberg can play somebody who just shits on the main character.
Yeah.
And even Dory's like, oh, you gotta admit they burned you.
Well, and after the roles he played as Ham in the Toy Stories, it's crazy for him. He's in one scene.
Yeah.
He's in one scene.
As Pixar progresses, his scenes get a little more cameo-y.
Okay.
Shorter and shorter. The A113 is an easy one. It's in front. It's on the camera.
Yeah,
right,
the
right
camera where
Nemo gets taken.
Yeah.
The Pizza Planet truck, though, as they're attempting to bust out, a couple cars pass in front of them. One of them is the Pizza Planet truck.
Yeah, it's out the dentist window, and if you're not looking for it, you won't see it.
No, I'm glad I was looking for it. I had to Google some of these. I thought Bruce was going to be in more of the movie because when I think about Finding Nemo, by the way, this is my 3rd time watching it. It's like my wife's 12th.
Yeah, I've seen this more than 12 times. I've seen this dozens of times.
You were on your phone at the beginning, like, don't worry, I've seen this.
I was shouting quotes at him.
It's like you and the Truffle Shuffle in the Goonies. I thought Bruce was going to be in more of it.
Yeah, and he's just, and again, those contained scenes. You have like Crush. Crush is something I remember hugely from this movie. He's in one scene.
Yeah, they're very much one and dones. Even the jellyfish scene, you expect, God, this movie's good.
Well,
Shit.
and it makes you appreciate just how much Marlin is going through on this massive adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to have them do a linear adventure like this. Again, this movie, when you watch it, seems like a video game, which I think is part of its mass appeal.
In other places, that might be a curse phrase or a slight, but it works here.
Yeah. And a linear video game, not a stupid sandbox thing.
I like that whenever this movie gets worried about becoming too childish, so there's a Barracuda scene right up front, so there's terror.
Yeah.
And then when it's worried about getting too childish, you have that thing where Bruce goes into a feeding frenzy against these things, and it's very scary for a child.
Yeah. This movie is constantly like intense and in your face.
Yeah. Oh my god. It's not afraid to get really weird. Like, maybe not weird, but like scenes where multiple birds are pulling at Dory, or when the pelican is seagull or pelican?
Pelican.
Is
the seagulls say mine.
It's just banging against every door and window and wall in the dentist's office.
Yeah.
It's not afraid to get really clumsy with the animation, especially when everything in the ocean is very smooth and very...
Right, and like with most things in the ocean, as you can imagine, most of the stuff in the ocean when you're a fish wants to kill you. And you constantly feel that all the time watching this movie. And Marlin perseveres anyway, and that's part of his character growth.
I'm blown away by that fucking whale scene.
Yeah.
And maybe, yes, for the emotional significance, but also the... Fuck it. It feels like an allusion to Pinocchio.
Yeah, and I feel bad because the whale scene is the one scene where everything after that I'm like, wow, this movie's still going. Because you have the all is lost moment kind of in the whale scene where Marlin like has to like finally realize what he's actually doing to his son and feels horrible for it. And he feels that through Dory. Yeah. Then you have the actual all is lost moment where we think Nemo's dead. Okay,
now we're in physical danger. Yeah. Oh man.
So there's a lot of emotional points. It's an interesting way to tell a movie, and for here it works very, very well.
Okay. The elephant in the room for Finding Nemo, as my final point, is the 2016 sequel, Finding Dory.
Which we'll talk about later.
We'll talk about it later, but what I got from you when you came back watching it without me, with like your aunt or whatever, I came back, I was like, how was it? It's a cash grab.
Yeah, it's a very much it exists, and maybe my mind. I've only seen Finding Dory once,
Okay.
so maybe my opinion will change on it with a new viewing, but it doesn't. I will definitely say it doesn't have near the staying power as this, even though when I saw this I was 12.
I have
11.
I have two conflicting points. One is, yes, I don't like cash grabs, and I can see why that would be a. This movie made gangbusters for them. It was very, very popular movie, and I can see why they would want to do another one, if only to be a soulless cash grab.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think about Dory, and when you tell me that Dory is the focus,
Yeah,
I think she has so many background elements that I feel like could be explored.
and she was everybody. I mean, I can go ahead and say I think she was everybody's favorite character when this came out, besides
Fair.
maybe the sharks.
Mm-hmm.
But with Dory, like Dory is great in this movie because of how little you know about her. And the fact that she can impact the story the ways that she does because of you only see her through Marlin's lens and then very much later through Nemo's lens.
That is nice.
And you constantly in Marlin's mind you constantly see him compare Dory to his son because they both have, let's call them, disabilities.
Yep.
Of different kinds. And he has this oppressive need for control over both of them. And to the point several times where he realizes that Dory completely doesn't give a shit about his need for control. And he tries to get rid of her. Like he tries to rid himself of her.
Yeah, and there's a really... with these character growth moments, they are earned, but they slide underneath you.
Yeah,
like when they're captured by fish, my wife just offhandedly is like, they can leave. Dory there.
Yeah. When Dory's caught in the net at the end, and Nemo tells everybody to swim down, I'm just like, Marlin and Nemo are hanging out there. I was like, they could leave. They could completely just like, I have my son, I have what I need, let's go. And I feel like beginning movie Marlin would have done that.
That's character growth.
Yes.
Holy shit. Final thoughts.
It's really solid. It really, really holds up. I'm actually amazed at how well this holds up. I hate that it ruined aquariums. I hate that it killed a lot of clownfish.
Okay, I hate that it killed some clownfish because they did the red stapler thing where after this came out, everybody wanted a Regal Blue Tang. Everybody wanted a clownfish.
Yeah. But it's if you haven't seen it in a while, definitely go sit down and try to watch it again. I do maintain my point that my strongest feelings of this movie is that it views like a video game. It views like a very, very linear,
polished
journey adventure video game that had a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. A lot of
love put into it. Jesus.
Yes.
But it's fucking... I agree with the statement that A, it's the highest grossing DVD sales of all time, and two, people call
I agree with that fact.
No, I can see why. When kids would love this fucking movie.
And they still do.
And I forgot. The second one being that this is the prettiest of the first 5 Pixar movies.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
They're really coming into their own with animation. And, I mean, you're in the fucking ocean, which is goddamn beautiful.
You have so much... It's fucking... I fear and respect the ocean. This has been the Day After Podcast and our sub-show Pixar Sunday. Join us in 1 week where we are tackling a good one. It's the motherfucking Incredibles.
Yes.
I'm really excited.
We learned how to do people.
Let's go do some people. Thank you, everybody.